And we're back. Turns out it was a faulty audio cable, and that means that definitively headphone cables or audio cables do make a difference when they're broken. But we fixed the problem. Wouldn't be a headphone show live stream without technical difficulties. I believe that the audio should all be good now. All that stuff is behind us. So let me just repeat, if you have not yet signed up to the giveaway, we'll be doing that at the end of the stream. There is a link in the description to a sign-up form, and that's basically all you have to do. And so what we'll do is I'm going to chat with these folks for a little bit here, then we'll do a Q&A session, but feel free to type your questions in the chat just as they come up, and we will try and get to them in the Q&A session, and then we will do the giveaway at the very end. All right, sounds good. Let us begin. So I'm here obviously once again with Dimitri and Freddie from HEDD Audio. We're here in the Vancouver Headphones.com office. What brings you guys to Vancouver?
Well, fortunately, we were able to seal a very nice deal with Headphones.com. You guys will carry the new headphone, and we thought, since you guys brought up the idea of a live stream, that we should actually jump on a plane and come here and do that in person with you.
Yeah, because we did
as
one.
opposed to like being all digital, and when it's all about like a product and like hands-on, like physical product.
Yeah, we did. I feel we did a live stream for the first one.
Yeah.
A digital one.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah, a long time ago. Yeah. So it's great to have you guys here in person. This is awesome. And we have obviously the Headphone 2 right here, and then the Headphone 1. So we'll talk about that as well. But just what's the launch been like for the Headphone 2?
So far we've been able to show it a little bit also to the community before getting the product actually out and announcing it. And it has been really a great experience meeting the community and getting their feedback through it, because there's a lot of work, a lot of ideas that went into it, and we were really jonesing to find out how it's going to be out there, and how the people are going to react to it. And I feel so far it's been very positive, and I'm very proud of it.
And this is, if I'm correct here, primarily this is your baby, Dimitri.
To be honest, the Headphone 1 was my first project when I came to HEDD, so both of them are my babies.
Right.
But there's been a lot of work that went into the Headphone 2, a lot of learnings that we had through the time, and a lot of research done on both fronts, on the AMT front, but as well as on the ergonomical front.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Anything?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, in terms of the launch, we decided, and I'm so glad we did, to show it at CanJam London before it was actually officially being announced.
Mm-hmm.
And for Dimitri and myself, I think it was like a really revealing experience. I think we counted that about like 150 people tried it during these 2 days, and the feedback we got was really gold in the sense that people, obviously felt the improvement over Headphone 1. They heard the differences. No one, or almost no one, was really confused by this new headband mechanism that we came up with. So it was I came home to Berlin with the feeling that we might have nailed it, and now it's literally all about like making sure that the supply is smooth and to get it out to the world.
When you guys were going to, you brought it to CanJam London, and people were trying it there for the first time. Was there anything like that was sort of like a common thread that was people's reaction? Like, what was like a common reaction that you got? Was it more about like the ergonomic and the size and the weight reduction, or was it to do with
I think a lot of it was people were quite happy to see the improvements that we made, but on the sonic level, I think what we nailed with the Headphone 1, sound-wise, they still experienced that and got even into more detail, and some of them feeling it more of like an experience listening to speakers rather than actually to headphones.
Right.
That was a very positive and pleasant feedback.
I was kind of surprised to see that a lot of people that came by in London had either owned HP1 or
Right.
they had heard it somewhere along the way, or they've been at the Can Jam when we introduced it for the very first time. So almost everyone had like some sort of a reference, some sort of a prehistory with the original one, and obviously these people were kind of shocked to see just how much better the mechanics are, like just the feel of it, just everything is on such a higher level now, and people notice that immediately, even without trying it on their heads. And yeah, that was a really assuring. I mean, to the point that I would like walking around at Can Jam with that thing in my hand made me so feel very different compared to 2019 when we presented the original one, to be honest.
Yeah, and folks who were going to those shows, you know, they are the I assume the type of folks who would have at least tried the HEADPHONE 1 already. So having that reference point is a pretty big difference. So we could talk about the mechanical design a little bit and some of the changes. I don't know if you want to talk about the weight reduction or basically how did it come, taking it from the much larger, chunkier design to the smaller one, and maybe some of the challenges to go along with that.
Maybe just as a starter. So I think the reason why we needed a long time in our world, 2 to 3 years of development process is a really long time, was that the situation, the perception, and the messaging that was in that perception was pretty clear to us. We were able to understand quite clearly what the community thought of the original one, both in terms of what was seen critically as well as everything that was seen very positively. And obviously the sound was celebrated by a lot of people, like within the audiophile realm, but also within pro audio, which is in a way still kind of our home.
Right.
But everything else, like especially the weight, was always perceived as a problem, and also obviously looks and the bulkiness, and some other smaller issues were always sort of brought to us, and so it was very clear for us what we should do and what we should overthink, and one of the main reasons, before we can get into more detail, why it took so long, was that we enabled research and development, Dimitri's team, to really dig deep, to really take the time that they need in order to make a profoundly better product.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, go to market is always, time to market is always super important, but it's definitely wasn't really our god in that project. We wanted to do something that can last, and that is more than just like a small evolutionary step. It's practically a new product in my opinion.
Yeah, totally new redesign.
Yeah.
Now, given that it is so much smaller, my understanding was that one of the reasons why the original one was so large is because there were space requirements for that AMT driver. So how did you manage to do that, essentially?
Well, I think one could look with the HEADPHONE 1, we tried to actually just show the people an AMT as a headphone, an AMT driver in a headphone. So a lot
full
of
range too.
The full
right?
range,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So that was the first time, and we tried to package it into a headphone without, let's say, overthinking every little detail when it comes to what a headphone needs. Mm-hmm. We tried to be a bit more faster and bring it out more quicker out into the market. And this time, I wanted to really dig deep and really take every single information, every single feedback actually we got from the people, as well as within our own team, all the tests and reliability tests, etc., that we got through with the HEADPHONE 1. What do we need to change so we get a product that is incredibly durable, and also it creates an ergonomic fit that tries to not only look for reducing weight, but actually how do I distribute the weight. And also not only distribute the weight, but how can I make the pressure that you get when actually wearing a headphone, how can I be able to adjust it that it's actually even throughout my whole head? So what are these things that are important for comfort and for ergonomics? And so we started actually from the center. We started actually from the driver itself, trying to make it more efficient in a way, but at the same time reduce weight as much as possible. You can imagine it like a race car, trying to improve the motor but stripping it down and streamlining it. So it's, in a sense, that's what we did with the driver, reducing it by like 20-25% in weight, and also increasing the sensitivity around 1.2 dB. So that was quite positive. But that was just one step, so that's like 50-60 grams or something. It's not enough.
Sure.
That's a start, but there's a long way to go. And so then we took the next step. So what is the enclosure? How can we make it as close as possible to the driver? Not only to reduce weight, but also to make it a very sturdy mechanical build. And also on the back side of the driver, it's really important not to have any reflecting surfaces that could influence the sound, because anything you do, you can try it out with the hand in front of the driver, you will influence the sound at the front. So it's a dipole. And so that was one of the next steps within the enclosure. Other ideas were how can we reduce weight through materials. So we, instead of aluminum, we took magnesium for these forks, for example, and for the housing. For the grills, we changed from steel to aluminum, trying to reduce weight. And then the biggest step was actually to reduce weight in the headband area. And there it was more of a radical way to like try to figure out how can we make a new system for the headband where all the moving parts are textile, are weightless in that sense, or like are not rigid and sturdy. And we have one base, is the frame. The carbon is made out of carbon fiber to again reduce weight, but to keep stiffness. And this whole strap system is built out of two straps, trying to suspend the headband around you. So with the strap, it's trying to go as furthest down to your ear as possible, trying to distribute the weight along your head. And at the same time, you have a second strap that goes through, and that's the tension strap that tries to, where you adjust it and you can increase the clamping pressure.
And this is really important for people like me who have, giant heads.
Exactly.
It's easier to get, to be...
Not only that, also small heads, where the clamp is not enough.
So, and Taryn and I often joke, he's got a really narrow head and I've got a really wide head, so like the headphones that fit him will never fit me, and the ones that fit me will always be too big. And this is a way to sort of accommodate both of us. And actually, I can't think of any other headphone off the top of my head where you have a dedicated adjustment for both of those things. So like the like how it sits here, and then also the clamp. It's usually like you get like the clicks or one adjustment point, and then that's what you get. So this is a really interesting design.
And it's also made in the atmosphere of really trying to understand who our customers are, because the original headphone, it had like a little bit of a peak in the beginning with the head-fi scene pretty much picking it up, but then it sort of became more and more like a pro audio product as we went along over the years, and this is basically the audience that are picking up the OGs, so to say, because all they care about is the sonic quality, and because it makes them work better and create results faster. But with this one, it's we hope that we can cater to all the audiences and equally, because for someone who works in a studio and works on records every single day and needs a headphone, is probably on the road like a mobile engineer or something like that, is using these like 6-7 hours a day or something, and you want to make sure that it's the best perfect fit for that person, and that that customization idea was super important for us right from the beginning. We just didn't really know how to do it in the beginning, but then slowly but surely opened our minds to create something a little more sophisticated, and it's exceeding what people demanded from us, I think. Yeah,
I'm just thinking with the pro audience and the pro market, you just mentioned it that for a lot of people they can they have an easier time getting their mix or master to the final point, and the weight concession, it's less of an issue in those applications. But yeah, as you say, now with the HEADPHONE 2, you can appeal to both crowds.
Yeah, we certainly hope so.
Just if there were any, was there anything that was a particular roadblock for you when you were coming up with this design? I mean, I actually just think about the headband, and I sort of wonder, where does that even come from?
Yeah, that's a flash of genius from our team, pretty much. It's a complete team effort, but it was quite a roadblock, or quite difficult to engineer because it's quite innovative.
Mm-hmm.
So if you imagine this, the carbon fiber rigid part is always stationary, no matter the head size.
Yeah.
And you need to design the whole curvature where it's able to bend, where it's actually stiff. So in the end, at any kind of head size, you have to always have the same pressure and the same, or a good enough angle to press on your ears, so it's still comfortable, no matter what.
And the seal.
Exactly, and keep the seal.
Yeah.
And that's usually done by extending these parts. But here we have a rigid part, so that was quite a lot of meticulous 3D printing sessions and whatnot.
Trial and error,
Of course.
Yeah.
You can't go completely through theory, but still we managed to get it to there. And then the next steps were actually working with new material. We haven't worked with carbon fiber before, so it was also a learning curve to get that right, to understand where do we need the cutouts to get the right exact clamp. And fit and everything. So that was quite a journey, but I think we've succeeded really well. And the other was, I mean, it's the heart of the headphone is the AMT driver.
Of course.
And the AMT driver is a very, well, let's say, it's a diva, and it's quite hard to create a very, very unvaried production output out of it. So it took us a lot of, actually in the last years, to improve on that count, because it's handmade. So any kind of handmade stuff
I've seen that, the folding process.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's one of the biggest improvements, I would say, is that we have an amazing consistency now between drivers compared to HP1.
Right.
It's a lot more stable in terms of producing it, and overall the whole headphone is much easier to put together and to assemble compared to the first one, which will make our lives much easier when we are hopefully getting to bigger orders in the very near future.
Right. So let's talk a bit about the AMT driver in there. With the HEADPHONE 1, you guys sort of did the variable thickness and size for or if I'm getting that right, for the folds. And my understanding is that's to accommodate the kind of tuning that you guys are trying to achieve. With the new one, I imagine, is there an evolution there as well, to try and smooth out some of the driver modes or things like that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So on the one hand side, it's the fold geometry that has been refined. Yeah. So you can imagine that actually every fold in itself has a strong influence on the amplitude response, and you have a lot of them in there. So keeping that as constant and as precise as possible was quite a challenge. A lot of post-processing steps that I won't dive into too much, but that help quite a lot when it comes to the distortion angle of it. And as well the resonance issues that HP1 had before, which were in the driver most of the time, and that we managed to actually improve.
The one, I think it's around 500 hertz or something like that.
Yeah, it's more like 800, 5 to 800, but it's more of a broad, and it could always change sometimes. Now we've got it under control.
Smoother, yeah.
Exactly.
And so you do that with the variable thickness and size.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's really cool.
That was like a. Just I remembered like 2017 or 18 was when you joined HEADD. When we created the very first prototype, which was basically just two clunky pieces
Yeah.
of
There's a
MDF
picture of that.
with like a giant AMT
Yeah.
tweeter in it, and this
Yeah.
AMT tweeter didn't have any refinement in its geometry. It was just basically a normal tweeter in the sense that, yes, AMT, but every fold, every distance between every fold was the exact same, and the depth in the folds was the same as well.
Right.
And that thing just basically, it was a proof of concept in the sense that we, for the very first time, heard super low frequencies coming through an AMT at a very reasonable sound pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And but it just basically kicked off a complex thought process,
Right.
how we can now influence the frequency response by mechanical means only, and,
Right.
and that brought us to opening up this idea of the variable geometries, and Dimitri has been refining this over the years more and more. I mean, this is probably something I want to also add, is that we think in projects, yes, but the AMT development process is like a constant process in the company.
Mm.
It's like a constant research and development process that covers both the headphone world and the speaker world.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's really, we feel like this technology is our baby, and we want to learn and improve it as much as possible in the next years as well. So
Yeah,
and that's the next evolutionary step within that complex structure processing.
So was it like a kind of like a eureka moment when you first got with the variable thickness?
Yeah.
Oh my God!
It
Yeah,
was-
yeah.
yeah, it
I
was-
mean, I will probably send you that picture. There's a photo of my dad actually, who's holding this diaphragm, and it's not even in any. It's not built into a speaker or into any case. It's just the raw, basically, just the raw AMT in the frame, and he's just holding it, and he's just closing his eyes, and he has this like very happy face. And to me, that was a revealing and defining moment for all of us. I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So for those who are maybe unaware of the AMT technology, it's most commonly used in tweeters,
Mhm.
right? And even in your speakers as well, over there. So the novel concept here with Headphone 1 and Headphone 2 has been to do it in full range in headphones. If you just if there's somebody out there who is familiar with a dynamic driver, or they're familiar with what a planar is, or an electrostatic, this is unlike all of that. If there's something you would maybe say to somebody who doesn't know what AMT is, what would that be?
So I think the best way to imagine it, or the main difference, is that it's a folded diaphragm compared to every other driver.
Yeah.
And a folded diaphragm gives you a much larger surface area.
Yeah.
So, and then you can imagine if you want to create a certain volume displacement, if you have a large area that pushes the air, it only needs very, very little excursion.
Yeah.
Compared to if that was a planar.
Yeah.
Or dynamic, or a piston-like movement
Yeah.
driver. So in the end, you get very small excursions, which means any transient behavior or anything that has to do with attack or decay is, in theory, like better that way to be reproduced by a larger surface area.
Sure. Yeah. With the Headphone 2, as far as its acoustic differences with the Headphone 1, you mentioned the sort of smoothing out of some of the driver modes or the resonances. Were there any other sort of acoustic goals with the Headphone 2, or was it primarily to just kind of even out some of that stuff?
Well, that was actually the point. I mean, us at HEADD, we try to, our goal is to create the most natural and correct, true to source reproduction of the sound. And so any kind of resonances, any kind of additional, sonic creations that come through an enclosure or some reflections or anything like that adds to the sound that's actually not in the source material. Right. So our goal is actually to to reduce or try to eliminate as much as possible out of that, with how much you can, and so you only hear actually the AMT reproducing that.
Right. Very cool. You mentioned a bit about your father with the AMT. You guys have been doing AMT for a long time. It's sort of like the heritage that you guys have, right?
Yeah.
Your father worked with Oscar Heil, or if I remember correctly, and so like there's a long history of AMT for you guys. But I was always wondering, why AMT, or what is it about AMT that has sort of fascinated you and your family with, this technology?
It's a really good point, because I'm not even sure if I'm able to reflect it, properly,
sure.
because it's been coded into my brain for such a long time.
Yeah.
But the first time I heard about it was basically in the 80s when I was sort of growing up, and I saw my father working on AMT-based tweeters that came out way later. They didn't come out before the 90s, actually, but he used to tell me that story. Oscar Heil, he heard Oscar's very early ESS speakers, I think on the Funkausstellung in Berlin, which is like a really big trade show back in the days.
And what year is this roughly?
And this was in the 70s.
In the 70s,
essentially.
yeah.
And Oscar was a real physicist, with real physicist topics.
Yeah.
He was like, quantum theory and these kind of things, and he had this quirky hobby of making speakers. It was just a hobby basically for him. So he came out with the AMT first as an idea. It was a German American physicist essentially. And my father heard these for the first time, and it's not a cliche. Like it literally possessed him the moment he heard it. And to this very day, probably right now as we speak here, he sits at home and tries to figure out the next product with refined AMT technology. So and he just loved the openness of the early AMTs. Although the early AMTs the diaphragms weren't made of Kapton, what we're using now. They're made of mylar, and mylar is it's not really consistent. It melts super early. It melts at like 120 degrees or something like that. Whereas the AMT Kapton membranes, I think they can take up to like 400 degrees or something like that. So they couldn't really handle lots of SPL, and they were just it wasn't really possible to make something consistent, repeatable, based on how Oscar's approach was. So my father tried to basically modernize it, make it more compact, make it more reliable, and make it a sub-product that could live in speakers that are mass-produced, essentially. And what makes the sound special is that sense of speed.
Yeah.
The sense of transient response, that you feel like you're capturing more of the signal than with traditional like voice coil-based systems, and to me, I always describe it as a lot of tweeter designs have even though they play from paper, they play to like 20 kilohertz or 30 kilohertz. There's always a kind of roof that I feel is there, and with the AMTs, it's just to me, it's basically like transcending that roof. It feels like they play like forever into the high frequency range, and it results in but that's super subjective, obviously. It results in a feeling that the music is like literally emanating from the speakers, and is independent from the speakers. It just sits in front of you. The band or whatever production you enjoy is not really part of the speakers anymore, and that is a quality I don't see in a lot of other speaker designs, and to me that's very much AMT quality.
Right. Yeah. I was just listening to the HEADPHONE Two before coming here, and it's something where we all use sort of different language and different terms to describe this. For me, it's always that sense of tactility, or that speed is a good one. One of our reviewers, FC Construct, actually put up a written review, and speed was also his term as well. So I think that there's there's definitely something there. And I when I was listening to it just this morning, I thought it's so detailed.
Yeah.
You know, so I think a lot of people when they hear it for the first time, that's probably the quality that they'll also be, you know, fascinated with.
Yeah, we're quite obsessed with precision in general.
Yeah. For sure. I want to talk a little bit about HEADD the company, who you guys are, for maybe the folks who don't know. So you guys are a small family-run business, basically, in Berlin. Talk to me a little bit about that. If you know, what's it like, basically, being a small company in a big audio industry?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly has a lot of advantages in the sense that we can act quite fast and quite dynamic. I think you referenced some conversation you had with my father the other day.
That's right. Yeah.
Or like a year ago, where he said, well, maybe you can.
Yeah. So I don't remember exactly what it was that he said, but it was something along the lines of what you can do as a small company. You can still compete with the big companies if you have something really innovative. If there's some technology that you can do that is
can be much more daring. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why the HEADPHONE One was such a well, we could actually pretty much do it in that sense because we were so small and we had the guts to try it out. I think like it gives you an opportunity to think further, think outside of it, and create something that hasn't been there before.
Yeah, that's true. I think it's a great, that's a great way of putting it. Like we feel like with the limited resources that we have, and it's not like I don't feel like we're super small anymore. We were at like 20 people now, with like an additional 10 freelancers working on mostly on the marketing front, and in some cases also on with mechanical design input. I still feel like we have a chance to be better than even the biggest brands in terms of what quality we bring to the table, and that's really fueling me personally. I would much rather do something small but really be excellent at that, as opposed to being one of 5,000 companies doing the same thing and you're like swimming along basically. So that's a really fulfilling element to me. And with regards to the company history, the beginning of the company wasn't necessarily very easy, an easy process, because my father had some difficulties with his previous company back in 2014, and that company, HEDD Audio, he left in not the best possible atmosphere, and so the beginning was really about him wanting to start something right away, something better and cooler, and he couldn't even wait like a minute to basically already think about the next company. But he was already in his late 60s, and I was a freelancing mastering engineer and had just finished a PhD in musicology, and I thought it would be really cool to at least support the process for like a year or two, and then we see where this would go by then. But it became really serious very fast. I couldn't even reflect anymore. I just stick to it, like basically because it was a really fascinating process, and we had a really good chance to have something quite fast. And the idea of like him being a physicist coming from classical music mostly, and me coming from the hands-on perspective of an engineer, knowing much more about the customers and how these customers work, this was a really good sort of symbiosis, I think, and a good basis to create something outstanding. And then we started building a team. Dimitri joined us quite early on, and I think that the HEADPHONE One was their first project basically together. And but Dimitri was always much deeper in the actual execution on the day-to-day R&D execution, and now there's a generational change with us two, I guess, being on the forefront. And it feels really good, and it feels like lack of ideas is the least of our problems. It's really more about like making this company, creating all the processes that are needed, creating, being good at managing the company, because we're making hardware, so we're not making it very easy for us.
No.
And because it's purchasing, it's producing, it's supply chain. There's a lot of complexity in every step, and so in that sense we still feel quite young, but there's a lot of ideas for the future.
So what is it like for you, Dimitri, when when you joined HEADD, and you know, okay, this AMT technology is what I get to work on. I mean, is that like a dream come true, or what's that
Absolutely,
like?
absolutely. I was working before in a company that was more concentrated on consumer electronics, so there was more of a high volume, maybe less quality kind of persuasion. But I always wanted to work somewhere where it's actually leading cutting edge technology or something special, where it doesn't almost matter how much it costs to get there, but actually what in the end you get. So I did like that approach, and had a really a great application when I talked with Klaus Heinz and convinced him that I can do that.
So he already had the idea
yeah.
in mind of the full range AMT, and you went, yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it, exactly.
Very cool.
So yeah, that was great. It was it was an amazing journey at HEADD, starting as an engineer there and now as head of research and development, leading all of these projects, and have created not only the headphones but also the speakers and the subwoofer series. It has been absolutely amazing. So, and there is a lot of new ideas coming, and the team is growing, and I feel very positive for the future.
Awesome. I want to talk a little bit about, or ask about how the foray into headphones has kind of affected HEADD as a company. Because before 2018, or well, no, this released afterwards, but you started development on it back then. Yeah, basically, how has it affected you guys now that you've done these full range? Because for a lot of the rest of the product range, it's speakers, right?
I would say on a lot of levels. The first one being, that it helped us to understand that there is a place for us in the world of headphones, which wasn't clear at all to us. I mean, I gotta admit, when we started HEADPHONE 1, I had no idea about HEADPHI. No one had an idea about HEADPHI, and no one knew what the CanJam shows were.
Because you were doing pro audio.
Yeah, we just thought we were making a great headphone now, but we weren't. We weren't really aware of the fact that there are so many headphones out there that cost like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. So and the person that sort of infused all that knowledge into us was Chris Parkinson.
Oh, yeah, I remember
So
Chris,
and he would speak. He would teach us like, okay, there's this. You can't make it too heavy. You have to do this. You have to that. Like, so he basically he took our hand and he showed us your world essentially. Forever grateful. And so this is really substantial for me. So I feel like even though HEADPHONE 1 was a little bit of a quirky first start, but we all love it dearly, it showed us that we can bring something super special to the table, and it's actually worth it putting a lot of resources into an expanding headphone portfolio in the future, and see headphones as a true second leg to the company next to the speakers. So that's one big thing. And then also it really increased the speed in which we have ramped up our digital identity, our digital efforts in Europe as an e-commerce business, in the way we do advertising, in the way we sell our speakers. The physical to digital aspect to selling headphones is super important, and we take some of these learnings also for the speakers now, because the speaker business, and I'm a part of it, but I still feel it's, compared to headphones, it's a little less speedy. It's quite old-fashioned when you look at a lot of our competition, and it's just not it doesn't have the sort of vitamin that I get when I'm traveling in this world. So so that too, yeah. Right.
Headphones is also a much more complex, I would say, product than a speaker, in a sense of just basically like even the amount of parts that you have there is much higher. The way they affect actually the listening experience as well is also has a huge impact. And so that was an amazing learning curve, how to fine tune pretty much everything there is. And that it's also in the acoustical realm in a certain way compared to
there's
speakers.
a human involved.
There's a human involved, which everyone is different.
Yeah.
There's HRTFs that are also all different, and it's not trying to measure a speaker in an anechoic room at 1 meter distance or 3 meter distance, or what you prefer. So there's a certain complexity, but also benefits in the way of how the acoustics work. For example, with the pressure chamber, you being able to reproduce bass through just movement, instead of actually needing to push so much air for such low frequencies. That's quite exciting. It gives you actually a new way of developing and thinking.
Right.
And it'll be super interesting to, when we ever have a minute of calming down, which I don't see like before Christmas, definitely not before Christmas.
Well, now the inspiration has just really kicked up.
But all the technical learnings from making HP2 to systematically look at that again and to see how we could feed some of that stuff back into the speaker developments. This would be something I would love to do as soon as possible. But at the moment, everyone is like fully 120% committed to the HEADPHONE 2 and to basically start spreading it, the marketing side of it, the sales side of it, the production side of it. All that stuff is happening right now in Berlin. And we're not there yet. We're pretty damn close, but we're not there yet that we can call it a finished project.
Right. Out of curiosity, when you guys, this just sort of struck me, with the variable thickness and size for the folds, did that have any impact on what you guys were doing with the speakers, or did it not go in that direction?
Most importantly, in the speaker world, AMTs are usually used for tweeters.
Just for tweeters, so you don't need to worry too much.
The problem is the high SPL. If you want to create lower frequencies with an AMT, you need to basically, like with a woofer, if you want to go lower, you create a bigger surface area. The same thing you kind of have to do with an AMT, but there the problem is that you get into distortion if you drive it too loud. The good thing about a headphone is it's right at your ear, so you don't need it that loud. A full range AMT driver in that sense is possible, and there that the VVT technology actually comes into effect.
Right.
Because if you're only working in a tweeter on the high frequency range, you don't need it that much. Speakers are. We work in the studio realm, so we have either analog speakers that have filters in them, or you have a DSP where you have filters in them. So and you can use FRL filters to zero the phase, and then you're golden.
Yeah. So it was just sort of a curiosity about how things.
But it's very, very true to think about that, and that's also what we're thinking about always, of course, because of course we're interested in. Diving further with the AMT, bringing it down further and further. Even Oscar Heil had his ideas with low frequency AMTs. So it's not some completely new. It's not a Hirngespinst in that sense, as in German you would say. It can be possible. I think. So it's interesting to follow that.
Yeah, it's good. So it's kind of like, I mean. AMT is not our god, but it's a great guide to.
It's our heart.
It's our heart.
Sure.
It's guiding us in the sense that we want to know and want to find out what other products in the music and consumer audio industry would benefit from that technology, and so there's always exploration going on around that, and so there's a secret list somewhere of things that could benefit from it, and
somewhere
we
on
just
there
have to make it. So we just have to. Obviously, we have to constantly ask ourselves, like, is this just a great idea and would make 17 people happy all over the world?
Is this good for us or for everyone?
Or could the company benefit?
Has anybody thought of a full range AMT speaker wall?
Yeah, that's not on the list.
That's not on the list. Okay,
it's on my list.
There you go.
Okay. Well noted.
Last thing I want to ask about is, you mentioned it before that getting into headphones And now, in particular with the HEADPHONE 2 as well, it allows you to speak to both the pro market and pro audience, and also the, the high-enders, as we might say, in just for the enthusiasts, right, like the audiophiles. Where do you see HEAD going in the future now that you've kind of made inroads into this new market? Do you see it more, or do you see it sticking with basically pro as the core, or do you want to sort of balance it, or where do you want to go?
Well, I think the pro side will always be an important side for us, and I mean, we have 4 studio monitor models and 2 subwoofer models, so it's not that we feel like we have done everything. Right. So there's definitely some building in that realm as well, and it's also just part of the story that we're telling in this world, in the high-end world as well. But with the headphone, we opened so many new doors into dealer networks, communities that are full of like passionate people, and it would be, it seems very obvious that we need to explore that side of the market a little more and do more on the consumer side with, I might add, that very sophisticated products. You know, this is always like we are very proud and very thrilled to do everything ourselves. Everything is hand produced in Berlin. We have a full-on production with amazing people. So that element of the company, I think, will play an important role in the future as well. But it seems very obvious to make more products in that direction as well. And in a sense, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we design something, and the acoustical design of all our products basically lies in both our hands, we seem to always look for the same things, right? How can we make something more true to the source, as you said, or accuracy, precision, realism? Like, these are all basically transcending the borders between pro and audiophile. This is just how we think, and this is what we think makes an amazing sounding reproduction device. So it wouldn't even require like a totally different approach if we were to do something in the consumer realm. It
needn't be a different product.
I think also, like, thinking in these 2 categories kind of I feel better actually not thinking in these two categories.
Yeah, exactly,
I want to make products that actually are for both.
Yeah.
Can give to the needs of the pro audio realm and to the needs of the audiophile realm. Yeah. And I think that's the main direction that we'll be going with our products, is to get that.
And to be faster. We want to be faster.
Sure.
So we're talking a lot about like, where can we add resources? What could rapid prototyping do for us if we were able to do that within our company, and all these kind of things, because there's just a thirst to do more and to do it faster. So once the dust settled a little bit over the launch, I think, and the product needs to be successful, obviously, in order to create the sort of freedom that we all want. Then we can get started.
Very cool. What's been just your favorite part about the HEADPHONE 2? Like, the whole process. Like, if there's one thing for each of you guys is that you think about and go, that's awesome.
Can you stop, please? I need to think.
That's a deep question.
I think that obviously the sound,
the end result.
The end result. The happiness on my face when I first heard it on the final product, and I think 8 hours I listened to it in the first run, noticing that it's much more comfortable than the first one, but I think the detail, the source separation, me being able to actually almost touch the instruments and really see them in front of me. That amazed me.
Yeah, good answer. No, for me, it's. I think it's in a more general sense. There are a lot of technologies out there that do one thing great or 2 things great, but then they're so quirky that they would never, see the light of the day, because they're just too special and too weird. And with the first headphone, I was still not sure if is this like a one-off success for just a very few people out there that celebrate that kind of weird thing? Or can we manage to turn AMT into a proper technology without obvious flaws that can create generations of product in the future? And I have that feeling now for the very first time. So, and that creates a huge amount of energy in myself that I would hope translates into the company as well. And just to see, just coming back to Pro, to see how early Pro still is in the sense that it accepts more sophisticated headphone designs, because you guys are used to that. Like when we go to CanGen with a $2,000 product, we're kind of like in the middle class of things, right? But in Pro, people are like, what the fuck? It's absolutely crazy. Nothing is more... the average studio headphone is like 400, 500 bucks, and I think that's a great opportunity for us. It's very zeitgeist to enable engineers that don't work out of big studios anymore, and they don't invest in acoustically great environments.
Yeah, or traveling.
And to be that brand that can show people just how far you can get with a set of cans in 2023. And but yeah, so that's it for me.
Very cool. Let's get into the Q&A now, and we've pulled a number of questions here, a lot of questions.
Awesome.
We'll try and get to as many as we can here. The first one is, someone says, super excited for Headphone V2. The V1 is one of my favorite headphones. Will the V1 be discontinued once the V2 comes out of the pre-order status? So once it launches, will V1 be discontinued?
It's been a discussion we had, and I wouldn't say that we are 100% aligned there yet, but it looks really good, I would say. I think it's possible to keep it alive and keep producing it in lower runs, essentially. But from London, we've learned that there might still be a place for it, because some people just love the original sound for its like majestic, voluminous sound compared to the 2, which is I think it's a little more factual sounding in a sense. So so I would love to see that happen, but it's too early to give like a clear answer.
And for some people, they love the design of the V1.
Oh yeah,
so it's
some people even love the weight.
Yeah,
it's not a lot of people, but I've heard it.
Great. The next question is, what differentiates the headphone from other headphones in the market right now? I mean, I think you touched on that throughout with the AMT driver, but if there's a succinct thing that sort of encompasses that, what would that be?
I think most importantly it's the AMT driver. So it's actually a technology, and the sound of it is, again, it's you can describe it in theory, etc., but you actually have to listen to it. So when you know the difference between a planar, electrostatic, and a dynamic driver, the AMT has its own sound in that sense as well.
Gotcha. Here's a good one. This is if you had to choose one song that exemplifies the characteristics of the Headphone 2, what would it be? Maybe a rephrasing of that would be like, if there's one song that when you listen to it, you go, this is what AMT does. Like it does it justice, right?
That's a pretty amazing question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the Berlin answer would be look into electronic music that has a huge frequency response extension, both to the top and the bottom.
Any square pusher or something like that would work quite well.
Yeah, but then obviously some of us, including me, have a more of a classic background. So, and I think naturally, recorded music plays a huge role in the process of developing, devices. But I guess electronic music just shows the AMT how it like shines in the upper frequency range quite well.
Yeah, any songs that you have with a lot of plucked guitar, for example, that's very, very, very good.
Yeah, you can hear that tactility. And
Kaluga Express, I think, is one of the tracks that we have. That's just very fast guitar playing. Every way, the main again point of attack and decay of transients. When you strum the guitar, the whole timbre sounds that get created through that, you can really enjoy there.
And also classical music, like a recording, like earlier recordings of, I don't know, like big orchestras like Stravinsky orchestras where you don't have a lot of close mic'd sources, but you actually have a lot of room information. That stuff's also great for the headphone, because we have consciously created a little bit of a stage for you, in the sense that we chose a fairly big distance between the moving diaphragm and your ear in order to give you that sense of stage and that sense of stereo imaging, and it comes through very well when you're listening to classical music.
Classical music is also very good in the sense of the dynamics of it. So that again is also something what you can imagine with a large surface area needing little excursions can create microdynamics and large dynamics quite well. So
no, it's great. My answer was going to be there's a flamenco album that I like by Gerardo Nunez, and it's a collaboration with Gerardo Nunez and Ofo Kenias, and it's called Logos. Look that up.
I mean, just asking back into the community, would it be a good idea for us to publish, let's say, the 10 to 20 tracks that are part of our research and development
That'd be really cool.
Process, and then, then that's probably something to learn from.
Yeah,
we'll do that.
Next one here. This is a question. There are, since you guys developed Headphone 1, there have been now some other AMT headphones that have come out on the market. How do you guys see that when other folks are adopting the AMT technology as well?
I mean, the AMT has been out for a long time, and I think healthy competition is always great.
Good, yeah.
I enjoy that, and so I'm interested in what comes out. That might be there. Well, absolutely.
Yeah, it's not patent protected anymore. The VVT stuff that we do with variable, like that is. We feel quite confident in how we do it, and I would be surprised if there's another brand that gives that so much weight and like really on a daily process, like development process. It's so like coded into the way we think and the way we work that we feel quite confident, and that we will always have really good solutions.
Yeah. I mean, for you guys, it's not just like a thing you're doing. It's a DNA.
I make membranes pretty much every day in Berlin, all kinds. So.
And you have, of course, Klaus.
Klaus is still very, very present in the sense that he's
the OG.
He's the OG, and he's not part of the operational side of the business anymore. He's 70, he turns like 76 next week, so he has a lot of freedom now to sort of go after his own ideas with his own budget, his own little lab, and he's a great inspiration still. But it's also super important that we can also get things done without him. So and that's when Dimi comes in.
People have questions about the how difficult the Headphone 2 is to drive, maybe also in comparison to Headphone 1.
Yeah.
So the sensitivity is a little bit higher. I would still recommend an amplifier, and I always recommend around the watt at least, or if you have more, go for it. Most products actually have that now, I think it won't be that much of an issue.
So no Apple dongles, guys.
Yeah.
Great. What was the impedance?
It's 41.
41. Okay.
Compared to like 38 before? Or?
No. I was 43, I think, before, but I had more of a variation.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Right, and if sensitivity is, you said higher now in this one, so it's a little easier.
That's the thing, like in the process of setting up the landing pages for the products, like we thought it would be a good idea to do like a table comparing HP1 to HP2, but the values are so close to each other that you can't really learn anything from it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's a fully different product that feels different, sounds different, but it's not something you can put like in an Excel sheet, right? So it's really like the progress sits in other elements.
It doesn't do it justice just by having
it's like 44 or 41, okay, 1 dB more.
Yeah. Okay, let's take a look. It looks like the new version is positioned as a monitor headphone and not as an audiophile item. They're wondering if you can comment on that. Well, I think you already addressed that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that it'll be super interesting to follow that journey now.
Mhm.
But yes, in the sense, we're still not fully comprehending maybe what a luxurious experience in a headphone should be.
Right.
We think it could cater very well into the audiophile realm, but if you're looking for something that has a little more like a sophisticated color set or surfaces that don't really add any function to the sound but look nice, like this is not our expertise yet, I would say, but I wouldn't say that this is nothing we can ever get into.
Mm-hmm.
We like the factual sort of industrial design approach very much until this point.
Yeah. And when it comes to tuning, if that's maybe where the question was also tailored to, the big goal with the HP2 was to create it as linear in itself as
Mhm.
possible. So for the preferences of someone having more upper mid, more bass, etc., it's more easier to actually apply an EQ because you don't have to use high
No fine
EQ
grain
levels,
stuff.
no fine grain, so you can
Yeah.
just adjust it a little bit. You won't have any phase issues that way, and you'll have the preference that you want.
Yeah.
So that was, I think. So I think it tailors to absolutely both
Yeah.
realms.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Next question is, where are the head cans made? It's an interesting question. So this is, you guys are a German company
Berlin.
in
Yeah.
Berlin.
In Berlin. Yeah.
Now we have a in our factory.
Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
answer.
Yes.
We have two departments that are related to the manufacturing process. One department is the assembling department that does the speakers as well, and then there's an AMT department. It's currently we have 3 ladies there full time.
Mhm.
One is a watchmaker, and they are building both the tweeters for the speakers and the headphone drivers with their bare hands and these like folding devices.
It's a really
that
cool,
showed up in some of the videos.
Yeah, we saw it. Yeah, it's a really cool process where there's it's like 2 stays and then they're folding it over.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah, we have people coming in all the time. Like we're doing these like factory events, factory visits every once in a while, and they're always booked out because people love to peek behind the curtain of a real manufacturing business. So
Very
everything
cool.
is happening in Berlin.
Yeah, very cool. Someone's asking if the stage is significantly different between the Headphone 1 and Headphone 2. I think the stage was something that like a lot of people loved. They always recommend or always comment on the width. And you mentioned about leaving a gap there. If there's any subjective differences for the stage, you think?
I would say, I mean, we've used the distance in both HP1 and HP2, so we kept that. But the main difference, I think, with the HP1, you have a wide stage that goes like to infinity like that, in a way, and the HP2 has more of a stage around. It's still quite wide, but I think, again, that is also a subjective quality that is different for pretty much everyone in a way. Like from our experience at Kanjan, we've had both. Some say it's quite narrow, some say it's very, very wide. So I always recommend to just listen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Someone's asking the difference between an AMT driver and a ribbon driver, and they're asking if it's the same thing.
No, they're
Not
not
really.
the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm not well versed in the ribbon driver technology, but as far as I recall, it's more of an accordion moving rather than what an AMT has, where an AMT actually each fold contracts the same way.
The same, yeah.
So it doesn't contract like that, a whole accordion. But I think it's the AMT is an electrodynamic driver that has a capped-on foil. It's very thin with edged aluminum wiring in it, and the ribbon driver is, as far as I know, aluminum based. But again, I can't.
I've seen some that are.
I can't say completely because I
for
haven't
sure.
built one yet.
For sure.
Yeah, with the ribbon mics and stuff like that, it's still like they're moving air in a sort of coil way, back and forth, and whereas we have this like squeezing process, built into the geometries of the fold. So it's not necessarily, I mean, not necessarily a different material all the time. Like I think there are ribbons with Captain too, but the way the air is moved is
that's my understanding as well.
differing.
The next one is any considerations for doing a closeback headphone in the future?
Of course.
Is that one of the items that's on the list?
Yeah.
That's definitely on the list. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just hellishly complicated, to be honest.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Especially with AMTs.
Yeah.
And yeah, I wish we had it, but we think it would make a lot of sense. But it's certainly not around the corner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. Well, someone's asking if there's a size difference between the drivers in HEAD 1 and HEAD 2. You mentioned that it is a little smaller in HEAD 2.
So no, the driver itself,
Yeah.
maybe, but that's very minimal.
Yeah.
The surface area of the diaphragm, which is more important, that didn't.
It's the same.
change.
So,
It's
like
the
when
same.
you unfold it, it's
It's
the same.
the same size.
Right, but the
Yeah.
actual physical footprint might be a little bit smaller.
Exactly.
I got you. Yeah. Cool. How has there's a question about any changes to durability between the two. I guess it's hard to know because it's it's brand new.
Well, we're testing them. We have in our factory testing facilities that
You do the
are
drop test, you know.
well, not only drop tests. We have like servo motors.
Interesting.
Contracting, extracting. So like testing all of the mechanics sides of it, and we're like 5 years, 6 years in the future. It's so far so good.
Okay, great.
I mean, maybe just to add, like we give 5 years warranty for
Right.
this one, which is really unusual for high-end headphones.
Yeah.
That should show how confident we are with the new one compared to the old one.
Yeah, and we've spent a lot of time actually to create extremely durable mechanics, learning from the HP1 experience as well, and applying very pragmatic ideas how we design the mechanics and how they're built together so that they're already durable. So
Right.
the tests that we're doing are not necessary, but it's something we also want to do as well.
Yeah. Gotcha. This is one from Blaine, and then in brackets it says nerd. This is
Bring it on.
yeah. This is Taryn pulled this one, I'm sure. He says, "Do you feel Captain is necessary for the headphone drivers, given the extremely low coil heat that they endure? Could we see PET, POM, etc. In an AMT at some
Very good point.
Yeah.
That's the Captain is very necessary for tweeters, absolutely, because you have much higher currents flowing there and much higher temperature that way. Of course, with the headphone, it's much less. And so, yes, there it's very possible to use other materials, but the ability to etch and the process of etching has a strong influence on keeping a consistent product quality. So, like changing materials just like that is not easy.
I get you. Yep. That makes sense. All right, let's see what's the next one here. We'll do a few more here. Someone's asking about the pads for the HEADPHONE 2. They are removable.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we can show that maybe.
So you can just detach it like that, and it's based on a rubber seal, pretty much, to keep the
sealing.
acoustic seal there, and you can just reattach it.
They're snapping into that frame again. So
Yeah.
it's no magnets.
No magnets.
So
The driver is too far away from magnets.
Yeah.
And there you go.
Yeah.
may I just add, there's a video on YouTube that we've uploaded last week that explains how to swap the ear pads, because HEADPHONE 2 comes with a spare set of ear pads anyway, and it explains it like fairly easily.
Yeah. I had another nerdy question, and it's so when the headphone is worn on the head with a seal, this is not something that's really all that relevant, but comparing the HEADPHONE 2 to HEADPHONE 1, would you say that the resonance frequency is around the same spot?
Similar-ish, yeah.
Similar, yeah. So if there is an imperfection in the seal, the bass doesn't drop out. It's quite low. Yeah.
No. The bass doesn't drop out completely.
Even if it's
You
Actually,
need to open it up properly.
like Bruder, yeah.
Then you'll have a difference. But again, this is if you do it in measurements. That can measurements are also a different side of it in the sense where a tiny seal can show you quite a lot, but actually in the experience of listening, you don't have that.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, maybe a word on the positioning of the headphone.
It's just important actually when so the headphone was designed that your ear is placed more to the front side. So place the ear as far to this wall in the front. So it's actually basically to have a snug fit when you put it on top, and then you push it back, and there you'll have the best sonic experience, or like the intended sonic experience.
And we noticed that with the measurements as well. That this is
if you bring it quite close to the edge,
Absolutely.
you're getting as close as possible to what we had in mind with the acoustic design.
Someone's asking about the replacement cost of pads.
You get one
You get an extra set.
Already in the package, and if you need more, you contact us.
Okay.
It'll be super easy.
Okay. Someone's asking if there's any consideration to do different colorways other than the black, and that may have also been a question from Taryn. I think he wants a purple one, or a neon teal.
I mean, actually, we designed it in a way that quite a few of these parts are customizable in color, and then there's also the straps, obviously, which can be used in different colors as well. So, but this is the sort of stuff that we would have loved to have in the beginning, but we're focusing on that design now. But in the future, it'll be quite easy to do like some color variations and do like limited runs of the HEADPHONE 2, and maybe at one point to have like color-coded straps as an additional thing to buy from us or something. It's a nice playground, but at this point it's only a playground.
I would say I'm very comfortable with the black. I think keeping it at black is also a good choice.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say that this is probably something I should have said earlier too. Like with the HEADPHONE 2, we had experts working with us from the dealer side, from the user side, from the recording industry side, helping us quite early in the process already with sharing with us their experience with like the early versions and stuff like that. And the overall input was, go for black in the beginning, as it will be compatible with most tastes, and then go from there in the future.
Yep. It goes with my outfit. Do you guys get any comments on like how it looks when it's worn? Like what's sort of the feedback there?
Always. Some find it a little bit estranging because it's you don't have that usually with a headphone. You don't have that system above you. Others find it very appealing. I think it's very technical. I think it's like for every person has their own preference.
I just hope that a lot of people will understand that we put functionality and ergonomics over literally everything else, and we had quite fiery discussions on the looks of the headband, 100%. And when I look at comments on YouTube, I still see a little bit of that, and some people are like, well, this looks quite weird. But ultimately, I'm quite happy with it because this is an indoor product anyway, and if you have a problem looking at yourself in the mirror at home, like this, there's only that much we can help you with, essentially. But I think for what it is and for what it can bring to the table compared to our competition, I think it's quite special and justified.
We exist in a space where, I mean, any high-end headphone looks kind of crazy.
Yeah, unique.
Unique, yeah. So I don't think this is all that, out of keeping with that. Let's do one more. I'm gonna try and choose a particular one. Taryn, do you have a favorite question that we haven't asked yet?
The one on the case is a good one. The other one that people really want to know is, when is the average person going to be able to get their hands on a headphone?
Aha.
Oh yeah. The first one seems a little easier to reply. What's the first one?
So it's to do with the case. So actually, they want us to show off the case a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, so the case consists of inlays to place your headphone, so it's very safe, and has a compartment for either your cable that you want to place in there, or if you have a small DAC that you can place in there. And there's also a place here for if you have a secondary cable or anything like that. And the headphone only fits one way in it. You'll notice it when you place it in. And it goes like that.
And I like that it has a handle too.
Has a handle, so a little classy, and yeah, very sturdy.
Yes, the person says space for a DAP and other cables, and I guess the top compartment you could.
Yeah, I am. We tried to make it as big as possible. I think certain DACs that are quite big won't fit there. Sorry about that, but at least smaller ones. Or medium sized.
It has to also be able to be still portable. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Great. So I think that's going to wrap up the Q&A, and I think we can now move on to the giveaway.
The availability.
Yeah, the availability.
Oh, the availability.
Let's talk about
Yeah,
that.
I know. It shouldn't seem like we don't want to answer that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so we're currently a little late, but the first batches of HEADPHONE 2 will ship into the US from next week, and just because we have to, there's a lot of stuff happening behind the curtains at the moment to increase output, because quite frankly the resonance has been extremely positive, and we have the amount of orders we are seeing both on the direct and on the dealer and on the distribution level is definitely exceeding what we've expected. So we need to sort of, try and make the most important partners as happy as possible, as fast as possible. But but we're definitely starting in North America, followed by Korea, which is another big market for us. And shipping begins next week, and then hopefully throughout October we will have most people, at least in North America, covered.
So next week is going to be an exciting week.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's complicated sometimes. You have the product finished. Like, we feel like a lot of stuff has been going extremely well. Yeah. And now it's really all about supply. It's not even anymore about production, because we've produced like more than 100 units now in-house, and the assembling process is easy, much easier than in the past. As I mentioned, the driver consistency, which is also potentially always something where you lose time, and because you need to match drivers since they're hand built. So right now it's all about supply chain, making that smooth, purchasing process, all the sort of boring stuff that happens behind curtains that needs to be done is our main focus at the moment.
And for folks who are able to make it to CanJam SoCal, you'll be able to try it there. So go to CanJam SoCal, because you guys are going, right?
Yeah, definitely. Dimitri will have a presentation there.
Yeah, I'll be making a talk about the AMT in more detail. So if you're interested in the technology, come around.
Definitely. Okay, I think it is giveaway time. Can we get a drum roll from the chat, please? I'll point at you guys. Let's go. Someone says he'll buy us dinner.
Okay.
All right, and I'm gonna have Taryn is gonna pull a random name. I wish I could show that here, but we just have a camera set up.
It's true.
The way he's doing it is it's a random number generator. Okay. So the YouTube name for the winner is Four Knees.
Congrats.
FOURKNEEZ. So congratulations, Four Knees.
Yay.
You won yourself a brand new HEADPHONE 2.
Amazing.
Enjoy.
Enjoy it. So we will be in touch via email, and yeah, gonna send you one.
I don't even have one at home.
Did you enter?
Technically I'm in North America, so I could.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to basically do it for the live stream. Once again, I want to thank Dimitri and Freddie for joining us here
Yeah.
and
Thank
making
you.
the
It's a pleasure.
making the trip out
Yeah.
for this. And yeah, look forward to chatting more with you guys about the HEADPHONE 2 and
Yeah.
AMT and all kinds of other stuff. So,
Awesome. Thank you so much.
cheers,
Yeah.
guys.